Are you losing money with your pay-per-call campaigns? Listen, in this video, I'm gonna share with you the 10 things you can fix that'll help you get back into the green.
Hey guys, just want to say a quick thank you to our sponsors, not just Adam, but Ringba, of course. If you haven't already, grab your copy of The Pay-Per-Call Revolution, which you can find on Amazon now.
The first one is that no one is picking up your phone calls, and this can be a number of reasons. What you'll notice is that the call lasts maybe 20 seconds or 30 seconds, and then it just dies, but this is consistently happening. So you see the same buyer getting phone call after phone call after phone call, and the calls are lasting about the same time. The buyer took the phone call, and they just wasted it. And it's just part of doing business, right? So just be ready for that. The second thing is, let's say I'm targeting 10 states, Florida, Texas, Georgia, 7 other states that a majority of my buyers will accept phone calls from to write policies. Maybe they're not licensed in a state like Nebraska or Idaho. That's fine. But the problem you're going to run into, Facebook does not allow you to target only people that live in the states you want. You can only select by default people that live in and or have recently visited. Problem is, people from North Dakota at some point, I don't know anyone from North Dakota, but let's say I did, I would imagine at some point in their lives, they're going to go to South Dakota. So that means you're going to have some phone calls that come from out of state. This is perfectly normal. It should be maybe 10% from what I see on average, as high as 13%. It's just an unfortunate way since the cost of doing business. Same kind of idea, but it's important to understand this. So when you see this go to 20%, maybe you had a change in your buyer coverage. Maybe one of your buyers that was taking Florida is no longer taking Florida, and that becomes your problem because they probably didn't tell you, which is very normal, unfortunately. The next is out of hours for your buyers, right? Meaning your buyers accept calls from 9 to 5. The call comes in at 5:01 p.m. It's not going to go to that buyer. Your problem. Too bad. Number 4 is the rate of spend of your ads. With Facebook specifically, if you're scaling aggressively, let's say $2,000 in ad spend for the whole day. It's not going to spend that because you're going to pause your ads at some point because there's no point in spending when call centers are not open. But even if you pause it at 5 p.m. and your last buyer takes calls until 5 p.m., you're going to see your ads keep delivering for another 1 to 2 hours. So you almost have to play with the dial a little bit where you pause your ads about an hour or so before the last call is accepted. But even if you do this, you could still see calls dripping through until midnight. And the reason why is because the budget and rate of spend of the ads has a big impact on when you pause it and when it actually stops fully spending. There's always going to be a little bit of waste, but it's like this trade-off because if you pause too early, you miss the peak hours. If you pause at 3 p.m. and buyers accept till 5 or 6, there might be a bigger opportunity cost. It's all relative to the scale. Number 5 is that there's no caps available. This is why it's so good to have direct buyer relationships, because if you're selling to brokers, you're selling to networks, and you see suddenly out of nowhere, all your calls go from being accepted to just being rejected, and you'll see this in Ringba on the breakdown section. You may have been told that you have unlimited cap, meaning you could send as many as you want, but the reality may be that the buyer paused for the day and is no longer actually accepting your calls. So the calls are being sent to the buyer, but the buyer is not accepting them. That's your problem. This will make or break your margin for the day. You can go from 20% return to negative 20% return very quickly if you're scaling, if you're spending, or not watching what's happening. Number 6 would be if your domain goes down. If you see suddenly you flatline your revenue and that calls, everything's hitting the floor, that's an indication that something like on the domain or the hosting side could be down. This doesn't happen often, but it could happen. Number 7 is that your ads are too clickbaity. You are getting cheap calls, but they're not converting. If the phone calls aren't lasting, that probably means that the person answers, the person calling in says, hey, I want free money or whatever stupid thing you're advertising. And then the call center gets mad and cusses them out and hangs up, or they just hang up, right? So they don't have to pay for the phone call. So this is where all these primary and secondary metrics do matter. Sure, you'll drive calls, but are the calls actually making you money, right? If people are calling in to get $10,000 in cash for free and that doesn't exist, and it's actually a subsidy in the form of a health credit, that's going to create a huge disconnect. Even if the call center is really good at vetting it and managing it with a good script, doesn't matter. You're still not going to be converting, right? And your numbers, you're probably going to be upside down or running on a thin margin that is so paper thin that the buyer's going to pause you and you're going to see no margin. The next point is that just like going off of the ad being too aggressive, if the landing page itself is super aggressive, especially on the page where there's a headline, a call to action, and then a button to actually click the call, if you reiterate some crazy idea or offer that doesn't exist, this is going to create a huge disconnect. What a lot of guys do in affiliate marketing is they actually use the ad they run more aggressive and crazy claim based on the ad itself to sell the click. And then the landing page is actually more branded and clean, and they do heavier filtering. So maybe they get the cheaper click, and then they pay the average cost per phone call because you filter out all the people that want free money and stuff. And then you actually produce a good quality phone call at the end of the funnel when they go to actually click to call and talk to someone. If you don't do this and you maintain crazy messaging from start of the ad all the way to the landing page where they click the call, you're going to create an issue because they're going to literally be calling in for the crazy thing that you promised in the first place. Another reason why you're probably losing money, even your best buyers are going to have bad days or bad hours. If you're not paying attention to your performance every 10, 15, 30, 60 minutes, depending on at your rate of spend, you're going to notice that even some of your best buyers, they might be at a $20 RPC. And then if you refresh again an hour or two later, maybe they drop down to a $15 RPC. What does that tell you? That means that you've sent them more calls and they've converted at either a lower percentage or maybe none of those calls. Maybe all those calls are going to waste because they forgot to tell you they have a lunch hour and you're just blasting their phones and no one's picking up. It could be a lot of things. You'll have to do your research and dig into that buyer. You'll have all the data in Ringba, which is great. But the point is, you have to be paying attention to your buyers and the performance minute to minute, hour to hour, especially when you're scaling. And the last one of the biggest mistakes I made at first, and this is funny because a lot of these networks that buy your phone calls, they'll ask for you to say $0 health plan, get your quote now. You're going to be spending $5 to $10 per click to get someone to click on that ad, maybe more. So by the time they get through your filtering, your funnel, and they go to click to call, it's going to cost you in ad spend maybe $40 to $50 just to get the phone to ring. So the economics of that's not going to add up. Edge not on the side of caution, but on the side of attention grabbing. Give them a reason to call. If you're running too conservatively with your ads, your costs are going to be too high and you're just going to be losing money and producing decent phone calls. Hey, listen, if you enjoyed this video and you got some value, I have a free pay-per-call course waiting for you just below this video. No strings attached. I'm literally showing you everything that I've learned and used to build a successful pay-per-call business. If you want to get access to that free course, go and click the link you see in the description below this video right now.